enemy advances! Ready the catapults!
Aye, Captain! Rope secured!
In the summer of 1281, a group of Japanese samurai set out in small wooden boats to hunt the largest invasion fleet in history. 140,000 Mongol warriors, who had conquered entire continents, found themselves trapped and terrified by an enemy they could not see in the darkness. Imagine this scene, midnight on the shores of Hakata Bay. A Korean sailor stands guard on a massive warship, part of a fleet so large it blots out the horizon. Suddenly he hears something splash into the water, then another. Before he can react, a Japanese sword is at his throat.
Please, I beg you! Your loyalty or your life? No, I won't betray them!
Within minutes, his ship is engulfed in flames, spreading to nearby vessels like an epidemic of light. The fate of Japan, and possibly all Asia, hung on these terrifying nights. By the end of this video, you will understand how small boats defeated the most powerful empire, why darkness became Japan's greatest weapon, and what the legendary divine wind truly was. How was this possible? How did a few fishermen stop the most terrifying cavalry in the world? How did Japan know exactly when and where to strike? Was kamikaze truly divine, or did the samurai create their own miracle?
My lords, the enemy fleet is here, advancing from the south.
Their numbers and formation?
At least 50 ships, in a tight arrowhead formation.
We mobilize now. Prepare the defenses!
The numbers are hard to believe. On one side, Kublai Khan's 140,000 soldiers across 4,400 ships, who had defeated China, terrorized Korea, and never known defeat. On the other side, about 10,000 Japanese defenders, with small boats and deep knowledge of their coastal waters. What followed was not just a battle, it was a sea-wide guerrilla war that changed the rules of naval warfare forever.
The storm tests our mettle! Aye, Commander! We stand ready! Brace for impact! Wave approaching! Hold the line!
The Mongols had conquered continent after continent, but they were about to learn that even empires can drown, especially when the sea itself begins to fight against you. To understand how a few fishermen defeated an empire, we must see the world through the eyes of the Mongols. If you're interested in untold stories of history's most important battles, where the weak changed the rules of war, hit the like button and subscribe for more epic military history. Now I'm taking you to a moonless night in 1281 near the coast of Japan. At that time, Kublai Khan ruled the largest unified empire in human history. From the frozen steppes of Siberia to the jungles of Southeast Asia, from the borders of Europe to the shores of the Pacific, everyone had bowed to Mongol power, except for one island nation which dared to stand against this world-consuming ruler.
The Golden Horde secures our western flank. Yes, Chagatai and Yuan are advancing in the east.
Japan was not just another conquest for Kublai Khan, it was the final jewel needed to complete his crown. He had already forced Korea into submission, using their skilled shipbuilders as tools of imperial expansion. The Song dynasty of China had also fallen after long resistance. Now only Japan remained independent in East Asia, protected by a ribbon of water that Mongol horses could never cross. But Kublai Khan was adaptable. If horses could not cross water, he would build a fleet the world had never seen.
The enemy has sent their terms. War is upon us. Their seal is clear, we cannot delay. Prepare the armies. We meet them in battle. It will be done, General.
This preparation began after an unforgivable insult from Japan. When Mongol envoys arrived demanding surrender, the Japanese did not just refuse, they beheaded them. In Mongol culture, this was worse than a declaration of war. It was a direct challenge to the order of the universe. Each main figure in this drama carried their own destiny. Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, believed himself chosen by heaven to rule all mankind. The Japanese called Kublai Khan the World Eater, and he himself proudly carried this title. Opposing him were Hakata's shadow samurai, such as warrior Takazaki Suenaga, who documented this incredible defense in his illustrations that still survive today. And among them was Fan Wenhu, an unwilling admiral, a Chinese commander forced to lead southern forces in war against Japan.
The enemy advances! Ready the catapults!
Aye, Captain! Rope secured!
Hold steady! For our honor!
Fire in the hole!
His loyalty was always in question. But Japan did not wait for invasion. After narrowly surviving Kublai Khan's first invasion in 1274, they turned the entire coastline into a massive fortress. Hakata's Great Wall rose from the sand, a 25-mile-long stone wall ranging from 5 to 15 feet in height. Its purpose was not only to stop enemies, but to trap invaders in specific zones and kill them there. Behind this wall, samurai built an unprecedented force, small, fast boats, with warriors trained for night battles.
The enemy approaches. We must strike before dawn. Their numbers are great. What is our plan? We attack their flank at first light. Be ready. My archers will cover your advance. Good. Let it be done.
But what the Mongols did not know was critically important. Every fisherman along this coast had become a spy for Japan. Every tide, every current, every underwater rock was perfectly known to them. The defenders knew exactly when high tides would trap heavy ships, when morning fog would blind guards, and when darkness would hide their small boats. From the outside, the balance of power seemed completely unequal. The Mongol Empire was an unstoppable force. No wall or army had ever stood against them.
The storm rages, but our spirits are unbroken!
Haidar, we stand ready!
To the boats! For honor and victory!
Japan, on the other hand, was desperate resistance, a small nation whose only strength was perfect knowledge of the sea and a warrior culture where death was preferred over dishonor. But the question was, how do you stop an army that has never lost? An enemy that revolutionized war with mounted archers and siege weapons that broke the strongest forts in China and Persia. How do you fight that? The Japanese answer was surprising. You do not fight them by their rules. You pull them into your world, the dark coastal waters of Japan, where the rules are completely different.
The enemy fleet approaches. Ready the defenses! I don't know! Signal the ships! Hold the line! For honor and victory!
As spring turned to summer in 1281, two massive invasion fleets prepared to converge on Japan. What was about to happen would either be Japan's funeral or the Mongol Empire's first true defeat. First came the Northern Fleet, 900 ships carrying 40,000 battle-hardened soldiers, veterans from Korea and northern China.
Warriors of the Horde, the enemy burns before us! Let the waves carry our fury!
These were not new recruits. They had stormed Xiangyang's walls, broken the Song dynasty's final resistance, and carried the scars of hundreds of victories. Their Korean-built ships, crafted by Asia's finest naval engineers, were equipped with catapults and stocked for long campaigns. Then something happened that defied military logic. The true size of the Southern Fleet was revealed. Instead of 50,000 soldiers as Japan expected, there were 100,000 men across 3,500 ships. The total invasion force reached 140,000 warriors and 4,400 ships, the largest naval invasion in history, unmatched for centuries. The weapons told a story of clear technological imbalance. Mongol composite bows could strike up to 350 meters, while Japanese bows only reached 150 meters. The invaders brought Chinese thunder crash bombs, early grenades that exploded with terrifying noise and deadly fragments. Their ships carried trebuchets that could hurl boulders as large as a human body.
Hold steady! Don't let it swing! Almost there! One more pull!
In contrast, the Japanese had superior steel, deep knowledge of their waters and a psychological weapon, unbreakable courage in the face of death.
Hold steady! We ride this storm! For Valhalla, fight the waves! Aye, Captain! No fear, we conquer the sea!
The northern fleet was led by Arakan, whose brutality was legendary even among the Mongols. He had personally executed defeated generals from 3 kingdoms. His strategy was simple: fear is the fastest path to victory. Opposing him was Adachi Yasumori, whose own family lived just miles from Hakata Bay. While Mongol commanders fought for fame and plunder, Japanese leaders fought to protect everything they loved. Hakata Bay's geography made it a natural target for invasion. Its wide beaches allowed massive landings, and deep waters let large ships anchor close to shore. But it was even more dangerous.
Do not let them land! Row, push through the waves! Archers ready! Fire on my mark!
The unique tides of this bay created a trap that the defenders understood perfectly. At low tide, vast mudflats formed that could trap heavy ships. At high tide, currents became unpredictable and deadly, a death trap for unfamiliar sailors. The Japanese had studied every behavior of these waters for 7 years, but the most important fact was this, and it changed everything. The Mongols had already shown their brutality on Tsushima and Iki Islands. There, upon landing, they destroyed entire settlements. Women were hung on ships as shields, and children were used as targets for archery practice.
You are defeated! Swear loyalty, and you may live! We swear. Good, serve me, and you will be rewarded.
Yes, Lord.
The survivors who reached the coast told stories that transformed Japanese fear into something more dangerous: cold, calculated, and controlled rage. Every defender of Hakata Bay knew what horrific fate awaited their families if they failed. The Mongol fleet's advance was highly strategic. The northern force would strike first, drawing Japanese defenders into Hakata Bay. Once engaged there, the massive southern fleet would land elsewhere and trap the samurai from both sides. Imagine this: 140,000 soldiers executing a complex pincer movement across the sea in an era without radio communication. Logistically, it was unbelievable. The statistical reality painted a terrifying picture. The Mongols brought nearly 1 soldier for every Japanese within 50 miles of Hakata Bay. Their arrows outnumbered the Japanese by nearly 20 to 1. They had veteran cavalry that had defeated both European knights and Chinese armies. In any normal battle, Japan's defeat was mathematically certain. But the samurai had an advantage no one expected. They transformed their fishermen's fleet into something unprecedented: a decentralized naval guerrilla force. Every small boat became a potential weapon, every fisherman a nighttime raider. While Mongol commanders planned large daylight battles, the Japanese prepared for something entirely different.
Warriors, the storm tests our resolve! We are ready, my lord! To the cliffs! Prepare for landing! For honor and victory! Hold steady. The time is now.
A war in darkness, where large numbers became a weakness. The stage was set for a clash that would decide whether the Mongol advance would continue unchecked or finally meet its limit. At dawn on June 23rd, 1281, the horizon darkened with ships. The largest amphibious invasion in history had begun. Within hours, everything both sides understood about naval warfare would collapse. The dawn of June 23rd painted Hakata Bay red, not with blood, but with the reflected light of thousands of Mongol war banners. The northern fleet advanced in perfect formation. Troop ships were surrounded by Korean war vessels, while supply ships drifted behind like a floating city. From the Japanese walls, defenders watched their destruction approach as drumbeats shook the very air. The Mongols suffered their first shock before even reaching the shore. Where the 1274 invasion had open beaches, now a stone wall stretched across the entire bay. It was not supposed to be there. Mongol intelligence, relying on Chinese refugees and Korean merchants, had not reported any major defenses.
Here is the landing point. We strike from the cove. And the defenses? Are they scouted? Yes, my lord. The cliffs are fortified. Then we must coordinate the arches. Agreed. Issue the orders.
Yet there it stood, a 25-mile stone wall, 5 to 15 feet high, with archer platforms and gates capable of unleashing cavalry counterattacks. The most important truth of amphibious warfare is this: whoever controls the beach in the first moments determines the fate of the entire battle. The Mongols expected to strike directly at the shore, establish a strong beachhead, and then unleash their horses, the cavalry that had conquered entire continents. But in reality, their first wave was met with a rain of arrows from above the shore. Japanese stones struck boats packed so tightly with soldiers that missing was impossible. Yet the invading ships kept advancing. Mongol veterans had previously attacked fortified river crossings in even worse conditions in China. They reached shallow waters, soldiers waded chest deep, advancing with shields raised against the arrow storm.
Charge for honor! Push forward! Do not falter! Archers on the cliff! Take cover!
Then came another unexpected shock. The beach itself had been turned into a massive killing field. Hidden pits filled with sharpened stakes, paths designed to draw attackers into crossfire, and false weak points were all traps leading to ambushes. By noon, the Mongols' adaptability began to show its strength. War engineers brought forward portable shields and built covered paths toward the walls. Ship-mounted catapults began firing back, their stones cracking the Japanese fortifications. Thunder crash bombs exploded along the walls. Their psychological effect was clear. Some defenders briefly abandoned their positions under pressure. Slowly but surely, the Mongols began to establish positions in certain areas. By afternoon, brutal close combat erupted at gate after gate along the bay wall. Here, Japanese steel proved its superiority. Folded thousands of times, samurai swords sliced through Mongol leather and iron armor with ease. From this chaos, individual stories of battle emerged.
Push forward for the clan! Die, invaders! Break their line! No mercy! You'll fall here!
Young Takeda Nobushige held a gate alone for 20 minutes, his naginata becoming a spinning barrier of death. Meanwhile, Mongol engineer Chen Wei used thunder crash bombs to destroy part of the wall, and closing the gap cost 100 lives. Now you might wonder, couldn't the Mongols land elsewhere? They tried. Small units attempted to bypass the main wall and land to the north and south. But remember, those Japanese fishermen who had become spies. Every alternate landing site was under surveillance, with mobile cavalry units ready to respond before troops could even disembark. The Mongols did not even realize they were slowly entering a prepared killing field, willingly or not. As afternoon turned into evening, a strange stagnation set in. The Mongols held some positions on the beach, but could not break through the wall. Meanwhile, the Japanese held strong resistance, but suffered losses they could not sustain. Every fallen samurai meant one less defender for the next day. Both sides began preparing for a long siege, Mongols planning siege engines, Japanese rotating fresh troops to the walls. Then the sun began to set, and everything changed.
Soldiers! The enemy is before us! For honor! For victory! Advance! Let the ground tremble beneath our feet! Forward, brothers, to glory!
The change was subtle at first. Mongol commanders ordered their forces to consolidate, a standard tactic in enemy territory. Ships were anchored in formation for mutual protection.
The fleet is in position! Aye, and restless. Signal the advance! We strike at dawn. It will be done.
Watchfires were lit and guards posted. This is how they had fought across Asia: secure the perimeter, rest, then launch a massive dawn assault. But this was not mainland Asia. This was Japan, where the rules of war were about to be rewritten. Darkness thickened and mist rose from the warm water. Familiar to locals, but unexpected for invaders. Visibility dropped to only a few yards. Then the Mongols heard the sound. Soft oar splashes, barely audible over the gentle waves.
Warriors, the fog parts for our resolve. Remember our oath. Onward to victory! For honor! For victory!
Guards squinted, but saw nothing, only fog and darkness. Then the first scream broke the night silence. A Korean supply ship suddenly burst into flames, so fast no one could react. Before they could understand, 2 more ships began burning. Mongol soldiers rushed to battle stations, arrows ready, but could not see the enemy.
Hold the line! Do not falter! I, Commander! Push them back for our honor! Fight to the last breath!
What happened next left a permanent mark on veteran Mongol warriors. Small boats, astonishingly small, each carrying only 4 to 8 samurai. They slipped between anchored ships like wolves in silence. They struck without warning. Grappling hooks flew in the dark, warriors boarded by firelight, and swords flashed everywhere. Before the Mongols could respond, the attackers vanished back into darkness, leaving burning ships and dead guards. Here, the line between myth and reality blurs. The Mongols had more soldiers, more technology, and more experience.
Warriors! The enemy burns! Victory's near! For victory! Hold nothing back! Charge!
But the Japanese brought something more terrifying, pure, overwhelming fear. As night fell for the first time, the hunters became the hunted in a way that would decide the fate of a nation. At the deepest moment of darkness, the first attack began, that precious time before the moon rose, when even starlight cannot pierce the coastal fog. From hidden inlets of Hakata Bay, 50 small boats slipped into the water. Each carried 4 to 8 samurai. These were not warships, just fishing boats modified for battle, painted black and with cloth wrapped around oars to reduce noise. Leading them was Kusano Jiro, a samurai who had once been a fisherman. He knew these waters like a lover's touch. Every current, every swirl, even where fog gathered, he knew by heart. Behind him, the boats spread into a hunting formation, taught to coastal raiders for generations. There were no shouts or commands, only hand signals and bird-like calls perfected through months of practice. Ahead lay the Mongol fleet, a floating city. 4,400 ships anchored together for mutual protection. Large ships burned watchfires, casting light the attackers carefully avoided.
敵の布陣はこうだ。中央突破か。波弱が薄い。今だ。よし、突撃だ。
攻撃！回せろ！
But from the day's fighting, the Japanese had noticed something important. The Mongols, used to land warfare, anchored their ships too close together. They saw it as protection, but the samurai saw a golden opportunity. The killing began without warning. Kusano's boat silently approached a Korean supply ship. A grappling hook was thrown up quietly. 4 warriors climbed onto the deck like shadows. 2 Mongol guards, playing dice by firelight, were killed before they could stand. Within moments, oil pots were smashed across the deck and fire arrows ignited the fuel. By the time flames reached the mast, Kusano's team had already vanished into the dark, rowing toward the next target. What followed broke every traditional rule of naval warfare. Naval battles usually meant ramming, boarding, and archery, a chaotic clash of floating fortresses. But this was something else. This was killing on water, attacks like knives from the dark. Each small boat was like a blade thrown from the darkness.
Here! Lock this! Forward, brothers! No retreat! Take him down!
Fire spread with unbelievable speed. Korean ships built for long voyages carried large amounts of oil for cooking and light, and dry grass for Mongol horses, becoming massive fuel. Even worse, the ships were anchored so close that a burning mast from one ship would collapse onto another, spreading fire instantly. A Mongol officer named Batu watched in terror as the fire seemed alive, leaping from ship to ship.
The enemy burns! We press the attack! Hold the line! Do not falter! Victory is ours for the clan!
He ordered drums to be beaten, emergency signals sent, and anchor ropes cut to separate the ships. But this is where the genius of the Japanese plan came into play. They had timed the attack during a static tide, so instead of separating, the ships drifted even closer together. In the darkness, every attempt to separate only caused more collisions. The psychological shock was devastating.
For our brothers! Fight to the last! Push them back! We stand with you!
Mongol soldiers, awakened by fire and screams, saw enemies striking and vanishing like demons. Arrows fired into the darkness only hit empty water or their own ships. Some ships launched boats to pursue the attackers, but the samurai already knew every layer of fog and every current. The pursuing Mongol boats lost their way in the fog. Some even crashed into their own ships in confusion. When the moon rose, the full scale of disaster became clear. Over 300 ships were already burned or heavily damaged. The entire sea seemed to be on fire. Oil fires created a hellish scene, their light reflecting off low clouds. Bodies floated between ships, some killed by Japanese swords, some drowned in panic, others burned alive, trapped in floating prisons. The hunters had become the hunted, and dawn was still hours away.
Brothers, the enemy is upon us! For victory! Charge! No mercy! For honor! Fight!
As the moon rose higher, the battle took on a new, unfamiliar form: decentralized naval warfare. The Mongols, recovering from the initial shock, tried to restore order. Admiral Hong Dagu arranged surviving Korean ships into defensive squares, deploying patrol vessels with torches and drums. It was a classic defensive strategy, and it was exactly what the Japanese had predicted. The samurai immediately changed tactics. Instead of direct attacks, they began psychological warfare. Boats stopped just outside arrow range. Warriors beat shields and weapons, shouting insults in broken Chinese. As Mongol patrol boats gave chase, the Japanese lured them into familiar shallow waters, where Korean ships would get stuck on hidden sandbanks. Sometimes they vanished into the fog, as if it swallowed both sound and light. Then came a tactic that changed the entire course of the battle. The Japanese began using the tides as a weapon. They had mapped every current of Hakata Bay, knowledge passed down from generations of fishermen. At tide changes, they floated burning wreckage onto the Mongol fleet. Burning ship fragments drifted with the current into anchored vessels, impossible for crews to remove. It was as if the sea itself was carrying fire toward the invaders. Amid the chaos, individual stories of battle emerged.
For the clan! No quarter! Die, you dog! Push them back! Ah!
A samurai named Michihara Tsunemasa boarded 7 ships alone, so precise that survivors said he could walk on water. Meanwhile, Korean captain Kim Chung-san cut anchor ropes to escape into open water, fending off 2 Japanese boarding attacks. But for every Mongol success, 3 disasters followed.
Fire on the deck! Bring water! They're boarding! Repel them!
In the dark, ships collided and rigging became tangled. Panicked horses, sensing fire, broke through ship timbers. Many Chinese conscripts used the chaos to settle old scores against Mongol rulers. What began as an external attack became internal collapse. The next 30 seconds determined the fate of nations. At dawn, as destruction became visible, Japanese watchers on the wall shouted, "Ships! Ships coming from the south!" The second invading fleet had arrived.
Behold the fleet. Our victory is at hand. Signal the advance. Target their harbor.
Facing 100,000 new troops, Mongol commanders made a decision that seemed smart, but sealed their doom. They chained ships together with iron links and wooden bridges to form a massive floating fortress. Dozens of ships formed a platform that small boats could not easily attack. This tactic worked in Chinese river battles, where linked ships dominated narrow waterways. But in Hakata Bay, it created a massive fortress nearly impossible for Japanese attackers to breach. Or so the Mongols thought. They did not realize they were fighting an enemy who had prepared for exactly this situation for months. The Japanese response was both clever and terrifying. Instead of boarding the floating fortress, they turned it into a death trap. Fireboats filled with oil and dry grass were set alight and sent drifting toward the chains. Unable to separate, the linked ships became a massive funeral pyre.
Pull, brothers! For the king! The flames rise! More force! Hold the line! Do not yield! For the realm! Ha! It's breaking! One more!
Those who tried to escape were trapped by the chains. Fortresses meant for protection became inescapable hells. But the real masterstroke came from below. Japanese divers, carrying breathing tubes and waterproof oil containers, slipped beneath the floating fortresses. They poured oil into the water between the ships, creating a massive layer of fuel. When fire arrows struck the spread oil, the sea itself seemed to explode into flames. Mongol soldiers jumping into the water to escape burning ships fell into liquid fire. A floating fortress, 36 ships chained in a square, became a stage of catastrophic slaughter. Japanese attackers first captured the corner ships, then slowly advanced inward. The Mongol forces were so tightly packed they could barely move weapons and shrank further as samurai closed in from all sides.
This blood will not wash away easily. It is the price of victory. The storm will test our strength. We will not break.
Witnesses said blood poured like waterfalls through the deck drainage holes. Chinese officer Liu Fuheng survived by hiding among corpses for 6 hours. His account reveals the horror. Monsters rose from the sea, fire fell from the sky, men were boiling inside their armor. The chains meant to protect us became our prison. We who conquered the world were now being slaughtered like sheep in a cage. By dawn, the floating fortress tactic was abandoned, but the damage was already done.
The enemy is near. We must decide. The fog hides them. Attacking is too risky. If we wait, they will strike first. Then we fortify here. We hold the beach. Great. Prepare the men.
The Mongol forces could no longer trust even their own tactics. The arrival of the Southern Fleet should have been a death sentence for Japan. Fresh troops, intact ships, and commanders who learned from the Northern Fleet's mistakes. 100,000 soldiers ready to reverse the outcome. This force was led by Fan Wenhu, a Chinese admiral known for carefully observing the enemy before deciding. When he saw the burning wreckage of the Northern Fleet, he made a crucial decision.
Secure the waters. It will be done. Onward to victory.
No immediate landing. Here, the story takes an even darker turn. Fan Wenhu ordered his fleet to anchor offshore, outside night attack range, but close enough for coordination.
Fleet, advance! Signal the formation. Hold steady, maintain course.
He would wait for daylight, proper observation, and regrouping of the Northern Fleet. It was a logical military decision, but it was exactly what the Japanese defenders needed most: time.
The battle is over, but the cost is heavy. We must honor the fallen. What are your orders? Gather the weapons. We prepare for the next fight. Hi, Captain.
Because what the Mongols did not know was that the Japanese were nearly collapsing. 7 days of continuous fighting had nearly halved the defenders. Samurai who began in shining armor now fought in blood-soaked, torn clothing. Swords had become dull from constant use. Arrow supplies were dangerously low. Most importantly, the small boat attackers were completely exhausted.
The tide is turning. We must go.
Aye, but I can barely stand.
The boats are ready. Push now.
I'm up. Let's move.
Together push.
Those who rowed and fought all night could barely lift their weapons. The arrival of another 100,000 enemies was supposed to create fear, but it did not.
Yes, Commander, we are ready. Warriors, the enemy approaches. Our ancestors watch us now. We will not falter. We will drive them back. Ready your weapons for honor and victory! For victory!
Instead, it gave birth to desperate resolve. If Japan was to fall, it would fall fighting. An order was issued. Every boat that could float would join tonight's attack. Anyone who could hold a weapon would board a boat. Even wounded samurai claimed places, knowing this might be Japan's last night as a free nation.
Captain, we must move. I can manage. To the boat. Easy now. We're almost there. Go. No delays.
As the 8th night fell, both fleets prepared for the battle everyone knew would be the final clash.